Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into something absolutely incredible, a journey straight into the heart of a profoundly deep ancient text, the Upasaka Sila Sutra. We're going to step out of all the noise of our daily routines for a bit and step into a space of pure clarity and some seriously timeless wisdom. Look, if you're here, you already know that ancient philosophy isn't just some dusty historical curiosity, right? It's a living, breathing blueprint for how to operate in the modern world. And the text we're breaking down today is arguably one of the most demanding, radically transformative blueprints ever put together.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Just think about this question for a second. Who actually has the harder time achieving ultimate enlightenment? Is it a secluded monk, meditating quietly up on some distant mountain, completely removed from society? Or is it an everyday person? Someone with a job, a family, a mortgage, and a smartphone that is literally constantly buzzing with emails. Now, the answer might seem obvious to some, but the Upasaka Sila Sutra tackles this question head-on, and the answer it gives forms the absolute core thesis of our entire journey today.
So that brings us to Act 1, the aspiration and the trap.
To really wrap our heads around this path, we have to realize that it is not about being some distant, untouchable deity floating on a cloud. It is a very grounded, very radical choice, and it all starts right here with the vow. True wisdom doesn't just kick off with a secret meditation technique. It begins with a fundamental, massive redirection of your entire life's purpose. The practitioner makes a vow to dedicate all their actions, words, and thoughts entirely to the benefit of all living beings. Just imagine that for a second. Every single success you have, every piece of spiritual fruit you ever harvest, you preemptively give it away to everyone else. The sutra even goes so far as to say that if people abuse you or hurl insults right in your face, your vow is to use that exact moment to increase your compassion for them, rather than letting even a single angry thought bubble up. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive trap that the text warns us about. The sutra draws this incredibly hard line between a nominal or fake bodhisattva and a true bodhisattva. The fake bodhisattva is someone who is totally in love with the idea of spirituality. You know the type. They might read all the right texts and play the part perfectly, but deep down, they're really just using it to feed their own ego. They want the inner peace and the worldly respect that comes with being seen as spiritual, but they still complain. They hold grudges, and honestly, they're terrified of true sacrifice. The true bodhisattva, on the flip side, operates with zero ego. They step directly into the suffering of others to be of service, completely ignoring their own comfort. To show you exactly how far this goes, the text shares these incredibly intense stories from the Buddha's past lives. Listen to this quote. Gouging his body to make 3,600 lamps for the Dharma. That's shocking, right? Well, it's supposed to be. The sutra uses this really intense imagery to demonstrate what it calls firmness of mind. A true bodhisattva's commitment has to be so absolute, so entirely stripped of basic self-preservation, that not even the most extreme physical suffering could make them abandon their vow to save others. We're talking about the ultimate psychological resilience here. Which brings us to a phrase you are going to hear repeatedly throughout this explainer. For monastics, it is not hard. For laypeople, it is hard. Now, obviously, walking away from the world to be a monk is a massive challenge in itself. But the text makes a compelling argument that trying to maintain the absolute selflessness of a true bodhisattva while simultaneously managing the chaos, the emotional triggers, and the relentless responsibilities of everyday lay life, that is an exponentially harder path to walk. Which leads us perfectly into Act 2, the core paradigm shift. So the crucial point is, if this path is really that difficult, how on earth do you actually walk it without completely burning out? Well, the sutra provides this profound psychological framework, and it starts with the concept of true self-benefit. The text states point blank that if you are seeking to benefit yourself, you're actually failing. It's a wild paradox. Completely giving up your ego to help others is literally the absolute only way to save yourself. If you hold on to even a tiny sliver of personal greed, even just for your own spiritual advancement, you're going to hit a ceiling. True self-interest is achieved by entirely abandoning self-interest. So what does this mind hack actually look like in everyday life? Well, let's break down the actionable steps. First, you have to train your mind so that when you suffer for the sake of others, you actually experience it with the same joy as if you were chilling in a state of deep, blissful meditation. Second, the very moment you learn something valuable, you don't hoard that knowledge to feel superior. You turn around and immediately teach it to others. And third, you have to completely eradicate your own jealousy and greed. You use your own purity as a tool to help break the greed in the people around you. You literally become a mirror of generosity. And right on cue, the sutra hits us with the refrain again. For monastics, it is not hard. For lay people, it is hard. I mean, just think about trying to apply that mind hack at your workplace. Imagine killing your own jealousy when a coworker gets the exact promotion you wanted, and instead genuinely dedicating your merits to their happiness. Trying to do that while you are surrounded by worldly affairs and daily stress? That is an incredibly heavy lift. The sutra isn't judging you for finding it hard. It's actually deeply validating why it's so difficult.
Let's move into Act 3, the toolkit and the ultimate challenge. Okay, so what are the exact daily tools we need for this? We've talked about the aspiration and the major psychological paradigm shift, but how do we practically interact with the physical world? The sutra brilliantly categorizes the 6 paramitas, or the 6 spiritual perfections, into what it calls the 2 adornments. Think of it as 2 halves of a whole. On one side, you have merit adornment, which is how you physically interact with the world: charity, keeping the precepts, and diligence. On the other side, you have the wisdom adornment, which is how you manage your internal landscape: patience, meditation, and wisdom. To be an effective everyday bodhisattva, you absolutely need both halves. Good intentions without wisdom? Pretty useless. And wisdom without charitable action? Totally empty.
Now, what's really interesting about this mapping is how the sutra lays out the specific karmic physics of these actions. It tells us that specific selfless actions have highly specific real-world byproducts. For example, a practice of absolute non-killing creates the karmic byproduct of a long life. Offering light to others, that results in good physical looks. Destroying your own arrogance leads to high social status. And joyfully teaching the truth leads to immense wealth.
But hold on a second. Doesn't wanting wealth and good looks completely contradict the whole give up your ego thing we just talked about? Well, yeah, and that is the absolute greatest paradox the text reveals. The true bodhisattva actually seeks these traits, but absolutely, 100% not for themselves. You only want a long life so you have more time to teach nonviolence. You want good looks purely because a pleasant appearance brings joy to others and makes them more receptive to your help. You want wealth so you can use it to tame the minds of the greedy and fund massive charitable works. You're viewing all of these worldly assets purely as tools in your tool belt to better serve the world.
So how do we actually execute this game plan? The sutra gives us a very strict chronological order. Step 1 is totally non-negotiable. Regulate yourself first. You cannot save a drowning person if you are thrashing around in the water yourself, right? You have to master your own precepts and desires. Only then, at step 2, do you attempt to teach and regulate others. And step 3, that's the glue that holds the whole shebang together, maintaining endless patience and compassion, especially for the enemies who actively try to tear down the good work you are doing.
As we reach the end of the text's core message, it delivers its famous refrain one last time, but now we get the full explanation. For monastics, it is not hard. For lay people, it is hard. Why? Because lay people are entangled by many evil karmic conditions. The sutra fully recognizes the immense weight of what it's asking you to do. To be a true bodhisattva right in the middle of modern society means navigating a crazy web of complexities, temptations, and difficult people that a secluded monk simply never has to face. The sheer gravity of everyday life is exactly what makes your spiritual triumph so incredibly profound.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. You are entangled in the world. You've got a job, responsibilities. Maybe you're dealing with stress and conflict right now. But through this knowledge, you are now equipped with the tools, the mind hacks, and the ultimate vow of the true bodhisattva. It is undeniably the harder path. But knowing that the truest benefit to yourself is found entirely in your selfless service to others, will you take that harder path today? Thank you so much for exploring this remarkable text with me. Keep reflecting on these lessons, and I really challenge you to bring this ancient wisdom into your everyday life.